Our next guest holds 3 degrees from MIT and an MBA from Harvard, obviously an underachiever. But he's best known for his vision to help educate America as co-founder and founder and CEO of Khan Academy. Please help me welcome live from Mountain View, California, Mr. Sal Khan. And that's Sal Khan.
Hey, Sal.
Hey, John.
This is live. People don't know when they watch this whether they're seeing a video, a pre-recorded video link, or is live. So I want to reaffirm. I'm just saying hello so that people know you're saying hello back.
Absolutely. I can confirm it is exactly 5:26 California time right now.
I don't think that people understand the power of technology as part of change in where the world is right now. I want you to break this down, take us from 30,000 feet down to 5 feet, so everybody gets that what I think you and I talked about at lunch in the Bay Area, which is you can't be a growth company, church, synagogue, mosque, Boys and Girls Club, for-profit, nonprofit, unless technology is at the center of what you do. It's all around us. It's allowing you and I to do this interview in the middle of a pandemic, connected across the country, and how you've taken right brain and left brain thinking, because you're one of these few tech people who actually feels and understands the texture of people very easily, but you also have this engineering brain. Tell us about Khan Academy. I'm not sure most people in the main understand it. It's been transformational, and how you got one of the biggest banks in the world to back your vision with big money. Give us a quick vision on Khan Academy.
Yeah, so Khan Academy, we're a not-for-profit organization, mission-free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And I add the parenthetical, and we're serious about it. A lot of folks know, or maybe don't know, how all of this started. I was originally working in tech, then I go to business school. Then after business school, I'm an analyst at a hedge fund. And then one of my cousins needs help. I find out that she's struggling in math. She was 12. I offer to tutor her remotely. Word spreads in my family that free tutoring is going on. And before I knew it, I'm working with 10, 15 cousins, family, friends from around the country. This was when I was working as an analyst at a hedge fund back in 2004, 2005. And I saw patterns in my cousins as to why they were struggling. It wasn't because they weren't bright. It wasn't because they didn't have great teachers or that the subject matter was difficult. It was because they had gaps in their learning. In a traditional academic model, you move everyone lockstep. You get an 80% on a test, too bad. The whole class is going to move on to the next concept. So as a hobby, I started writing software for them. I called it Khan Academy. The domain name was available. And then in 2006, a friend suggested, he's like, this is a cool family project you have, Sal, but how are you scaling your lessons? I said, it's hard. He said, why don't you record some of your lessons as videos on YouTube and upload them for your family? I said, that's a horrible idea. YouTube is for cats playing piano, dogs on skateboards. It is not for math. But I got over the idea that it was not my idea, and I gave that a shot. And after a couple of months, my cousins somewhat infamously told me they liked me better on YouTube than in person. So I took that as positive feedback, and I kept going. And frankly, by 2009, I had already set it up as a not-for-profit. I was thinking that one day, if I did well in the hedge fund world, I could retire and maybe work on this. So I had set it up as a not-for-profit organization. I don't own Khan Academy. No one does. It's a public charity. But by 2009, there were actually about 50,000 people who were using these resources every month. And I was getting letters from folks all over the world saying how they're deployed in Iraq and they're able to use this content while they're there, and now they feel confidence going back to college, or that someone's child had a learning disability and this was what was allowing them to keep up with class, or someone thought they were no good at math and then they were able to fill in their gaps that had accumulated, and now they want to become a math major or they want to be an engineer. So I frankly had trouble focusing on my day job. My wife and I were saving up a little bit of money. I took the plunge then. Go full time on Khan Academy, and we could talk more about it. But 2009 was a very tough year. Most entrepreneurs experience that tough year, where you don't know if you made a good decision and you're living off of savings. But by 2010, we got our first real philanthropic funding. And I definitely want to talk about financial literacy, but it's been a wild ride there. Since then, those 50 to 100,000 students have grown to over 100 million.
Whoa, 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 back up. Can you say that really fast? Can you say that again so the audience understand the power of your impact? How many folks have you educated?
Well, right now we have about 130 million registered users. About 30 million folks are coming every month, all over the world. There's 50 translation.
Did you hear
projects.
that? Sal, hold on a minute. My cousin Choo Choo's got 20 registered users on their app. How many registered users do you have again?
120 million, 130 million now, actually.
130 million from an idea. Go ahead, continue. I love it.
And you're absolutely right. We used to work on Khan Academy in the same walk-in closet that I'm right now, and it was somewhat delusional when you fill out the paperwork with the IRS and they ask you for mission to say a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. But to your question about the power of technology, it shows just that there's something about the time and the technology and hopefully the how Khan Academy came to being. I actually think it was a blessing that it started off as a family project. Hopefully people can sense that it isn't your typical business. It is a not-for-profit, but it also has a certain, it sounds cheesy, but love in it, that you feel a connection. But financial literacy was something that was always close to my heart. We obviously started in math and in science, but I was an analyst at a hedge fund. And I remember back in 2009 or 2008, when the financial crisis was hitting, which was really a crisis of financial literacy. If you think about the people who got in over their heads with mortgages and whatnot, I started making a whole series of videos because I saw even the analysts at my hedge fund, the junior analysts, they themselves, my favorite interview question when I was hiring kids from some of the top universities with summa cum laude JPAs, I would say, okay, there's a house. This is how much I can rent it for. This is how much I could buy it for. Should I rent it or should I buy it? Very basic financial literacy question. It's amazing how many people it will stump. Some people just say, oh, you got to always buy. Buying is good. I was like, okay, now what if the rent's the same and the house costs twice as much? And they're like, oh, I see what you're doing. And what's the framework for that? So I started making videos back in 2007, 2008 on also, how does the Federal Reserve work? What's a stock? What's a bond? What's a credit default swap? What's a mortgage-backed security? And I remember even then there was someone from, I won't say which bank, who emailed me saying, thank you so much for that video on mortgage-backed securities. I now know what I do for a living, which better late than never. But when the financial crisis hit and I was just operating in this closet, I started getting contacts from all the major news media saying, we're watching these videos before we're reporting on the financial crisis. And so, and then they even brought me on to explain what some of this stuff was. And so in 2011, Bank of America reached out and they said, this crisis was at least in part a crisis of financial literacy. And we have a responsibility as a financial institution, frankly, corporate America has a responsibility to make sure that people are well informed. And they said, look, if we could try to do this ourselves, one, people will be skeptical of a bank. They're going to think it's marketing material, but they also appreciated the authenticity, the real talk, so to speak, of Khan Academy, that the trust that we already had, that, I'm not beholden to anyone. And I said, well, if we're going to do this, I'm not going to be beholden to y'all either. And they're like, that's exactly why we're talking to you. So we went on that journey and it's been a great one. Many tens of millions of folks have benefited from it. But what I'm really excited about is this partnership we're forging with y'all to take it to the next level, where we can bring above and beyond Bank of America, many other corporate partners, create courses in financial literacy that we can bring into high schools, bring into colleges. A lot of employers are interested in doing that for their employees.
What's the biggest, so Sal is a founding member of Financial Literacy for All, along with me and Doug McMillan, CEO of Walmart, NFL commissioner, NBA commissioner, Bank of America CEO, Disney CEO, Delta Airlines CEO, I'm gonna get in trouble here, PayPal CEO, Dan, who is here, and somebody will ping me and tell me the others. You can go to Financial Literacy for All to get the complete list, and the group is growing by the week. We announce a new couple members every few days. But Sal is the only nonprofit with me, traditional nonprofit, that's in this, and neither one of us are getting paid. Neither one of us have contracts. Just to be completely clear, we're doing this because we think it's the right thing to do as a public service, as a public good. We think this is I'm gonna speak for you, Sal, you tell me if I'm wrong. We think this is a civil rights issue for this generation. financial literacy. So why do you believe this is so important? And what has been the big aha that has hit you from doing your work at Khan Academy about the power of financial literacy? Do you have a story or two that you can share with us of how this really has come to life in people's lives?
Yeah, I see it all around me every day. I told you the story about these highly educated analysts that we had at our hedge fund. They did not have a framework for it. And if they don't have a framework, well, there's not a lot of hope for everyone else. I see it in my own family every day. Obviously, I work on education. Education isn't just about empowering test scores. It's about making someone a productive, healthy human being and someone who feels a sense of purpose. And I think we all know that if you are living, if you're paycheck to paycheck, you're not able to have a reserve. We all know the statistics about how few Americans have more than a few $100s of savings. If they have even the slightest stress on their life, an emergency, they're going to be in tough situation. It affects people's mental health. It affects their family situation. It affects their physical health. So I couldn't agree more that there's a lot of important issues in the world, but when it comes down to people's finances and how to make sense of them and how to make sure they have reserves, they're saving, and it's within reach of anyone. I think that's the important thing. You know, my mother, we grew up below the poverty line. She worked a whole series of minimum wage jobs when she could, raised us as a single mother, but she actually was very financially literate. We reused paper towels. You know, I still cringe when I see people throw away paper towels. I'm like, you can just dry it out and reuse it. But but I saw what she could do when, you know, she could cook for the week off of $30. And, you know, this might've been in the 80s or 90s, but even inflation adjusted. And so even when she had low means, we had a reserve, we had some savings, not a lot. But I also, at the other side, saw the stress that you can have when you're on a razor thin margin like we were. So I completely agree. If you don't have that basic financial cushion or financial literacy, everything else becomes that much harder.
Yeah, and I want to commend, or underscore, first of all, what he said. Number one cause to divorce in America, money. Number one cause to domestic abuse, money. Number one reason why women stay with abusive men, money. Number one cause for heart attacks, stress. Number one cause for stress, money. The average family before the pandemic, more than 60% did not have $40 for an unplanned event. More than 60% of this country. And when the pandemic hit, the economy shut down because people ran out of. This is everybody's issue, but people want to spend it, they don't want to talk about it. And we have got to get our hands around this issue. We've got to prioritize it. And what I love about what Sal has done is he's made it user-friendly, he's made it approachable, and I guess the pandemic has made your business model where you're sort of a pioneer beforehand, sort of you almost ran into the future, or the future ran into you, because now everything is coming online and you've perfected this as a model. Beyond financial literacy, can you give the audience some context for how broad and deep your reach is? You were telling me some of the statistics of what you guys are doing in other areas. Give us a quick texture of Khan Academy and your reach.
Our vision is to cover all of the core academic material and the things that should be core academic knowledge, like financial literacy, from pre-K through the core of college. We have an early learning app called Khan Academy Kids. Everything I'm talking about is free, not for profit, funded by philanthropy, but that covers math, reading, writing, social emotional learning. We already have a lot of the math. We're the official practice with the College Board for the SAT, with the law school admissions test for the LSAT, with the MCAS for medical school. 60-70% of all students who are college bound are using Khan Academy, law school bound using Khan Academy, med school bound. We are, as I mentioned, localized in over 50 countries, 50 languages in the world. And, you know, as many students as we're trying to reach right now, our goal is to try to reach billions. You know, we're the budget of and this goes back to your question about technologies. There's just an opportunity for scale now where we're the budget of a large high school, but we think there's a chance of reaching humanity. And a big pillar of what we're trying to do is not just to learn the material, but how do we actually connect it with opportunity? In the financial literacy world, you know, you and I are talking to folks. Hey, if someone completes this course, they get a lower interest rate? Can it improve their credit? Can they get more likely to get a promotion? We're looking at a partnership with Howard University, college algebra. And this is actually a financial literacy issue. 70–80% of kids who show up at college, these are kids who are doing everything right. They don't even place into college algebra, which is really 10th or 11th grade math. They place into middle school math. We have a partnership going with Howard University, a pilot starting next term, where we're going to go into Title I schools. If the students get mastery on Khan Academy, then we're going to give them transferable college credit in college algebra. Then they're not going to have to spend that money on tuition. And it'll save them years of college. We know college student debt is a major cause of financial stress right now. If we can reduce the cost of college, make it that much easier. And then we also know the kids who don't place into college algebra, they are much more likely to not graduate while still having debt. So our goal, even in just the US, which is about 2/3 of our usage, is just to make sure we have as many empowered human beings as possible.
As we wrap up, I want people to be able to reach you. Give your website, Sal.
Yeah, khanacademy.org. That's the main English website, but we're available in, as I said, 50 languages. There's a Spanish Khan Academy, es.khanacademy.org. There's a Brazilian Portuguese, br.khanacademy.org. Do a search for almost any language you can think of. There is a Khan Academy, but obviously English is where a big chunk of our energy is.
And as we wrap this up, one of our founding partners for Financial Literacy for All made a major commitment to you to get you started in financial literacy so that it's free. It's Bank of America. How much was that?
Oh, well, over the years, and I don't know how public this number has been, but it is on the order of $20 million over the last 10 years. So not a small investment.
And likewise, I'm proud to say the Truist Bank put up $20 million recently to Operation Hope to fire and support the financial literacy work, the Hope Inside work inside of bank branches, the work for the 1 Million Black Business Initiative. And recently they joined Financial Literacy for All, Sal, and they, unbeknownst to me, inspired by this work, and think about now, I just said that the average American didn't have $400 for an unplanned event. They realized their own employees had issues. So they basically said if their employees went through financial coaching programming and finished that coursework, they gave every one of their employees, hold on, $700 as an emergency savings account. That was another $40 million of reinvesting in their people. I really believe this is a movement where companies believe that reinvesting in themselves reinvests in America and pays a dividend back in their brand. I really appreciate you more than you know, my man, and thanks for your leadership. And let's go create some cutting edge financial literacy curriculum together for free.
Sounds good. Happy to be on this journey.
Sal Khan. We'll be right back.